سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم أشهد أن محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم أشهد أن عليا ولي الله عليه الصلاة والسلام أشهد أن عليا وأبناءه المعصومين بالحق حجج الله عليه وعليه الصلاة والسلام حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه من جميع ظلمي وإسرافي على نفسي وأتوب إليه لا شريك له بذلك الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد كذلك الله ربي الله أكبر اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر. استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد، وتقبل شفاعته في أمته وارفع درجته. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. أستغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. يا من له الدنيا والآخرة، ارحم من ليس له الدنيا والآخرة. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Let us all recite the Dua Imam al-Zama. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma kulli waliyika al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan salawatuka alayhi wa ala abai fi hadhihi sa'a wa fi kulli sa'a وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرزك توا فتوته فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. It's an honor to be on the night of the Wiladat of Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam and the eve of the Wiladat of Imam Hussain alayhi salam with my dear brothers and sisters at City of Knowledge. May Allah inshallah accept all of our efforts, especially in the month of Sha'ban, for the honor of Sayyid al-Shahada Abu Abdullah Hussain and his brother Abu al-Fazl Abbas and his son Hazrat Zain al-Abidin Sajjad alayhi salam. Recite the salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. With the permission, I ask if it's okay to just quickly, it's a good time between the two salah to talk about some of the rulings and ahkam regarding the prayer. And I think it's important because even we have that even our great maraji and mujtahideen, when it comes to their daily salat, once a year, they check with someone else to make sure that their salat is correct. Because what it happens is that sometimes when we do something every day, it's very easy to make a mistake, and then it becomes a habit, and we don't notice, and we think, okay, this is the right way to do it. That's why these are not necessarily these points that I'm going to make new information, rather as a reminder to make sure we are, inshallah, kind of refreshing what we already know. So because it's a salat time, it's a prayer time, there are ahkam that we have to know in regard of prayers. The first thing is that there are wajib prayers that every person is responsible for, that we should know about. Everything outside these prayers are not wajib. Wajib means mandatory, it means it's required. So for the girls, since they are 9 years of the lunar calendar, which is almost 8.5, and for the boys of 15 years of lunar calendar, which is 14.5, they become mukallaf. But remember, for the boys, the signs of becoming baligh, or Islamically the age that they are now mature enough to do their responsibilities as a Muslim, they could become baligh earlier. The 14.5 is a cap. It means that nobody will be baligh later than 14.5. So somebody could be baligh at the age of 13, depending on the signs. But once that age comes, from that moment on, these prayers will be obligation on men and women who are at the age of taklif. So the first one that we all know about is the 5 daily prayer, yawmiyya prayers. They have their specific time that they have to be performed on. And then including that is Jum'ah prayer. During the time of occultation, it's option between doing the Jum'ah or doing the Dhuhr, according to majority of the mujtahideen. But it's including the yawmiyya prayer because it's a replacement for the Dhuhr salat on Friday. It's not a separate one. And also during the time of occultation, Eid prayer is not wajib. Although in the time of the Zuhur and the presence of the Imam, then the Eid prayers of the Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha will be mandatory. But right now at the time of occultation is mustahab and recommended. The second prayer that is obligated on every Muslim, depending on the signs that occur, is ayat prayer, or the prayer of the signs. These are the prayer that we have to do during the certain events, natural events, such as solar eclipse, lunar eclipse, and earthquakes. There's some others that have a difference of opinion depending on which side you follow, but these are the ones that is agreed upon. That earthquake, solar eclipse, and lunar eclipse, they require to perform salat ayat. And again, if somebody missed them, if it's a complete eclipse, then we have to make them up. If it's a partial eclipse, according to Sayyid Sistani, it's not required. If you didn't know about it, and you missed a partial eclipse, and later on you figure out, the qada is not required. But again, make sure that the part that I'm referring to is if you didn't know about it. But if you received an email that this coming Friday, there will be an eclipse, and you forgot about it, and you didn't do it, then the qada and the makeup for it is required. So that's ayat prayer. The third one that is wajib, is again for people who go to Hajj, is the prayer of the Tawaf. When you do the Tawaf, it's mandatory, and there's a Tawaf in Nisa, that is a mandatory prayer. Again, it's only for people who go to Hajj and for pilgrimage season. The fourth one is also is wajib. It's for the eldest son when it comes to the father. The eldest son is responsible for the qada salat of the father. It doesn't mean that the eldest son cannot do it for the mother. It doesn't mean that the other children cannot do for their fathers. It means the wajib responsibility is on the eldest son. When it comes to others, they can participate if they want. They can do the qada as well. Sisters and the daughters can do it as well. But the wajib goes on the eldest son. And then the last one is a prayer that becomes wajib if we make a nadr or a qasam. So if I made a nazr, a pact, a vow, that Ya Allah, if this happened, or according to this, with certain condition, I will do this salat on this day. Then based on that, it becomes obligatory and wajib and mandatory if we make it a nazr or we use qasam and oath to do it. These are the wajib salat. Every other salat is mustahab. Yes? Sure. So salat al-mayyit has to be done on the dead body. Yes, you're right. But this is, again, as you mentioned, is wajib kifai. So kifai means if one person do the mayyit prayer, which is you pray on the body of the deceased, it's not wajib for the rest of the community. Only that one person do it is enough. Yes, yes. But again, in most cases in our time, it's not an obligation on everyone because usually there are many organizations who take care of it and all that. So, but again, it is a wajib prayer that has to be done on the body of the prayer, on the body of the deceased, yes. So, in general, every other prayer, when we talk about prayers that we do for the a'mal of the 15th of Sha'ban, prayers we do for the Laylatul Qadr, all the others come under the category of mustahabbat or recommended. Same when it comes to the nawafil or nafila prayers, that after every salat, there are nafilas that they are highly recommended to be performed. The only reason we say what is wajib and what is mustahab is give always the importance and significance to wajib. As you know, Ramadan is around the corner. There is a very slight difference between prayer and fasting. And that is when it comes to fasting, if you have qadha fasting, you cannot do any mustahab fasting. So if you missed any days of Ramadan, I cannot say I want a mustahab fast in month of Sha'ban. I first have to make up those days that I missed. But with salat is not the similar case. You can still have qadha salat and do mustahab namaz. But give your priority to your wajib namaz. Even in the best nights of the year, like 15th of Sha'ban, and like the even night of Qadr, if you have qadha salat, if you missed your prayer, God forbid, do that first. Why? Because if God forbid, tomorrow is the last day of my life and I leave this dunya, the angel will not ask me, did you do the salat of the night of 15th of Sha'ban? Did you do the prayer for the night of Qadr? It will ask me, did you do your daily prayers. That's why you want to make sure do it as soon as possible. And that's why, inshallah, my next salat is a complete salat. I am a traveler, my salat is qasr, but I asked somebody who had a family member who passed away that I will do it for them. So I'll do a qadha namaz for them, so you will be able to do a complete salat. So that's also a very simple rule. Even if you travel, if you want to make up the days that you missed in your own town, even if you're a traveler, you still have to do them full. Let's say you travel to Houston, but you miss your namaz in Dallas. You have to make up those days completely, even if you are in Houston right now. What was the form that you missed it? You do it that way. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala don't take away the tawfiq of doing our salat on time, and don't let us to have the burden of the qadha and the missed prayers, and inshallah be able to first complete our wajibat and then be able to benefit from the recommended and mustahabbat, inshallah, with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, ashhadu anna Aliyan waliyullah alayhi salatu wassalam, ashhadu anna Aliyan hujjatullah alayhi salatu wassalam. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله قل إن صلاتي ونسكي ومحياي ومماتي لله رب العالمين لا شريك له وبذلك أمرت وأنا أول المسلمين الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إذا زلزلت الأرض زلزالها وأخرجت الأرض أثقالها وقال الإنسان ما لها يومئذ تحدث أخبارها بأن ربك أوحى لها يومئذ يصدر الناس أشتاتا ليروا أعمالهم فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يره الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. كذلك الله ربي. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة ومن ذريتي. ربنا وتقبل دعاء. ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الحمد لله كما هو أهله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد، وتقبل شفاعته وارفع درجته. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. يا ولي العافية، نسألك العافية، عافية الدين والدنيا والآخرة. الله أكبر. بسم الله وبالله. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر.
الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما
الله صل على محمد وآل محمد الله.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى
Inshallah, we will recite ziyarat after the program ends. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. We're inshallah going to begin the program with the tilawat of Quran Pak. Bawaz buland salawat.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ثم أنشأنا من بعدهم قرونا آخرين ما تسبق من أمة أجلها وما يستأخرون ثم أرسلنا رسولنا تترى كلما جاء أمة رسولها كذبوه فأتبعنا بعضهم بعضا وجعلناهم أحاديث وبعدا لقوم لا يؤمنون ثم أرسلنا موسى وأخاه هارون بآياتنا وسلطان مبين إلى فرعون وملائه فاستكبروا وكانوا قوما عالين فقالوا ونؤمن لبشرين مثلنا وقومهما لنا عابدون فكذبوهما فكانوا من المهلكين ولقد آتينا موسى الكتاب لعلهم يهتدون وجعلنا ابن مريم أمه آية وآويناهما إلى ربوة ذات قرار ومعين إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
Bar Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad salawat. Let us begin the celebrations with presentations by our youth from the Scouts 1499 troop. We will begin with our sisters, young sisters, making our presentations. First up, inshallah, is Sister Abiha Batul. Bar Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad salawat.
Salawat. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Today I'll recite a poem on Imam Hussein alayhi salam that I wrote all by myself. Salawat. Ya Hussein, you stood for something great. Oh my Mawla Hussein, after losing everything, you stood strong. You stood strong as if nothing was wrong. When I call your name, you give me hope. Oh Hussein, you give strength to all. You stood for right and justice, so tyranny could not take over Islam. You're not only a hero, but an inspiration for all. When I call your name, you give strength to everybody. You're like a hero and an inspiration. When I cry and listen to your musibat, I feel like my worries are nothing. You went through a lot, but you never gave up. When I go to your haram, I feel in peace. Your haram is like no other, oh Hussein. I don't know what musibat of yours should I cry about. When you lost your sons, or when you left the camps, or when they cut your head off, or when they trampled your body with horses. You went through a lot, oh my Mawla Hussein. You taught us how to stand against a just tyranny. You taught us how to stand what we believe in. And you taught us how to be patient and to not be scared of against wrong, or standing against wrong. Thank you, my master. Thank you, O Hussein. May Allah only make us cry about the musibat of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Salawat.
Jazakallah, Sister Abiha. I would now like to request Sister Sakina Maklai to make a presentation. Bawaz buland salawat.
Assalamu alaikum to my dear mothers, fathers, sisters, and brothers in Islam. Today, I will be shedding some light on the birth of Hazrat Abbas and the significance of his name. When Hazrat Abbas was born, Bibi Zainab turned her face toward her father and asked, "O father, have you chosen a name and a nickname for this new baby?" Imam Ali alayhi salam responded, "Yes, daughter, I have." "What are they, father?" she asked eagerly. Imam Ali alayhi salam perceived that this baby would be one of the heroes of Islam and would be frowning in the faces of evils and wrongdoers. He said, "I name this baby Al-Abbas and the nickname Abu Fadl." In other Arabic meanings, Al-Abbas translates to the lion that other lions fear and escape. Al-Abbas is the name given to the courageous, the fearless, and the strong, and the attacker. Hazrat Abbas was nicknamed Abu Fadl, which means the father or owner of virtue. Some mention that he had a son called Al-Fadl. As a matter of fact, this name represents his personality completely, because he was the owner, leader, and source of virtues. In his life, he was so open-handed. He used to distribute his virtue and charity to anyone who was directed to him. After martyrdom, he was given the shelter and refuge of everyone who sought his help. Hazrat Abbas was also called Abu Girba, the owner of the water skin, because he had carried the water to the haram of Imam al-Hussein during the Battle of At-Tawaf. It is narrated that once Imam Ali seated his baby Al-Abbas on his knees, lifted the baby's hands and kissed them, and wept. Watching this situation, his mother, al-Banin, was surprised. Imam Ali then told her about the future of Hazrat Abbas and what would happen to his hands. She, as well as others, wept heavily. After that, the Imam told her about the baby's great position with God, and this relieved her. Bibi al-Banin nurtured her son with faith, loyalty, and knowledge, devotiousness, and high principles. Al-Abbas was brought up under the custody of these parents. No wonder, then, that he possessed such a personality and offered such big sacrifices for the sake of his religion and principles. Al-Abbas was always with his father and under his thoughtful care and wise education. Through heredity, education, and environment, Al-Abbas acquired all virtues, high moral standards, knowledge, and curvaceance. After his father's demise, Al-Abbas adhered closely to his two brothers, Al-Hassan and Al-Hussein. He returned with them to Medina and learned from them the religious knowledge and fundamentals in addition to the nobilities of character. When Imam al-Hussein was poisoned, Al-Abbas stuck closely with his brother Imam al-Hussein and his nephew Imam Ali Zain al-Abidin until both he and his brother tragically died in Karbala. Hazrat Abbas had the characteristic of full adherence to his father, two brothers, and nephew. For that reason, he was a true copy of the Imams in knowledge and morality. Salawat.
Jazakallah, sister. I would now like to request Brother Abbas Maklai to make a presentation. Brother Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
Abbas, Abbas, Ya Bal Fadlil Abbas, 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 Ya Bal Fadlil Abbas, Sakai Haram Rakh Lena Baram, हम दरे पे तुम्हारे आई है सगाए हरम रख लेना बरम हम दरे पे तुम्हारे आई है तुम भी नहीं हमको ठुकराना, तुम भी नहीं हमको ठुकराना, हम दुनिया के टुकराई है। अब्बास अब्बास या अबल फضل अब्बास, सकाए हरम रख लेना बरम, हम दरे पे तुम्हारे आई है। अब सारे सहारे टूट चुके, हम अपने पराए लूट चुके। अब सारे सहारे टूट चुके, हम अपने पराए लूट चुके। तुम अपनी पनाहों में ले लो, तुम अपनी पनाहों में ले लो, हम से बहुत घबराई है। अब्बास अब्बास या अबल फضل अब्बास, सकाए हरम रख लेना बरम, हम दरे पे तुम्हारे आई है। अश्कों की जुबां पे जानत हो, जो दिल में है वो जानत हो। अश्कों की जुबां पे जानत हो, जो दिल में है वो जानत हो। हम कह नहीं सकते तुम सुन लो, हम कह नहीं सकते तुम सुन लो, बस हाथों को पहलाई है। अब्बास अब्बास या अबल फضل अब्बास, सकाए हरम रख लेना बरम, हम दरे पे तुम्हारे आई है। हर सूनी गोदी किल जाए, हर बेटी को रिश्ता मिल जाए। हर सूनी गोदी किल जाए, हर बेटी को रिश्ता मिल जाए। उन चेहरों को रौनक दे दो, उन चेहरों को रौनक दे दो, जो गम के सबब मुरझाई है। अब्बास अब्बास या अबल फضل अब्बास, सकाए हरम रख लेना बरम, हम दरे पे तुम्हारे आई है। मौला तुम बाब हवाइज हो, रोज़े पे उन्हें भी बुलवा लो। मौला तुम बाब हवाइज हो, रोज़े पे उन्हें भी बुलवा लो। गुरबत की सबब जो आन सके, गुरबत की सबब जो आन सके, हम उनके आरी से लाई है। अब्बास अब्बास या अबल फضل अब्बास, सकाए हरम रख लेना बरम, हम दरे पे तुम्हारे आई है। तुम भी नहीं हमको ठुकराना, तुम भी नहीं हमको ठुकराना, हम दुनिया के टुकराई है। अब्बास अब्बास یا بالفضل العباس سکائے حرم رکھ لے نہ برم ہم در پہ تمہارے آئی ہے پر محمد وآل محمد صلوات.
Jazakallah, Brother Abbas. Jazakallah. I would now like to request Brother Ali Nayani to make his presentation. Ba'awaz buland salawat.
Assalamu alaikum, Mubarak to everyone for the birth of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Imam Hussein alayhi salam was born on the 3rd of Sha'ban in Medina. His mother is Sayyidah Fatima alayhi salam and his father is Imam Ali alayhi salam. Imam Hussein alayhi salam is the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. At the time of Imam Hussein's birth, the Prophet, peace be upon him, was on a journey and he had left special instructions for Sayyidah Fatima alayhi salam for the care of the third Imam. When the Prophet returned, he gave the first feed to Imam Hussein alayhi salam and said, Hussein minni wa ana min al-Hussein. Hussein is from me and I am from Hussein. The Prophet, peace be upon him, then recited the azan in the right ear and the Akama in the left ear of his grandson. Imam Hussein alayhi salam was an image of his grandfather. Some qualities that they share includes bravery, knowledge, and patience. The divine will of Allah was to make the third Imam like the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, because he was going to represent Islam on the lands of Karbala. Sawad.
Jazakallah, very informative. Jazakallah. I would now like to request Brother Ayan Raujani to recite a manqabat. Ba'awaz buland salawat.
وفا جس کا پڑھے کلمہ اسے عباس کہتے ہیں. وفا جس کا پڑھے کلمہ اسے عباس کہتے ہیں. جسے سجدے کرے سجدہ اسے عباس کہتے ہیں. جو ہے شبیر کی قوت علی کو ناز ہے جس پر. جو ہے شبیر کی قوت علی کو ناز ہے جس پر. جسے زہرا کہے بیٹا اسے عباس کہتے ہیں. اٹھے طوفان چلے آندھی زمیں گردش زمیں گردش کرے پھر بھی رہے اونچا علم جس کا اسے عباس کہتے ہیں رہے اونچا علم جس کا اسے عباس کہتے ہیں جو پتھر پر علم گارے اسے کہتے ہیں سب حیدر جو پتھر پر علم گارے اسے کہتے ہیں سب حیدر علم گارے جو پانی پر اسے عباس کہتے ہیں علم گارے جو پانی پر اسے عباس کہتے ہیں وہ پیاسا پیاس نے جس کی کیا سہراب دریا کو وہ پیاسا پیاس نے جس کی کیا سہراب دریا کو ہے جس کی پیاس بھی دریا اسے عباس کہتے ہیں ہے جس کی پیاس بھی دریا اسے عباس کہتے ہیں وفا جس کا پڑھے کلمہ اسے عباس کہتے ہیں محمد
صلی علی محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Ahsan, Brother Ayan, Ahsan. I would now like to request Brother Taha Ali Mamdani to please recite Iman Kabad. Ba'awaz buland salawat.
السلام علیکم. ایک اور درود بھیج دیجیے. فقیر کی صدا حسین ہے 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 جو بندگی کا ناز ہے جو بندگی کا ناز ہے حقیقت نماز ہے وہ بندہ خدا حسین ہے وہ بندہ خدا حسین ہے فقیر کی صدا حسین ہے نظر ہے خیمہ گاہ پر زمین و آسمان کی سکوت میں ہے زندگی گھڑی ہے امتحان کی ہے سانس موت کی رکی ہے سانس موت کی رکی لرز رہی ہے روشنی دیا بجھا رہا حسین ہے فقیر کی صدا حسین ہے سموں سے ذوالجناح کے یہ عرش کیوں لپٹ گیا، فلک پہ مہر رک گیا، فرات پیچھے ہٹ گیا، ہے زلزلہ زمین کو، ہے زلزلہ زمین کو، ابھی تو آستین کو الٹنے جا رہا حسین ہے، الٹنے جا رہا حسین ہے۔ فلک پہ لکھے جاتے تھے نصیب کل کی بات تھی، کریم کے ظہور سے روش یہ اب بدل گئی، یہیں پہ ہوگا سب رقم، یہیں پہ ہوگا سب رقم، اٹھا کے لوح اور قلم، زمیں پہ آ گیا حسین ہے، زمیں پہ آ گیا حسین ہے، فقیر کی صدا حسین ہے، فقیر کی صدا حسین ہے۔ حسین نے یہ تربیت بطول سے ہی پائی تھی، بچا لی اپنے خون سے ولایت علی ولی، گلی گلی نگر نگر، گلی گلی نگر نگر، علی علی ہے اب مگر، علی کے لب پہ یا حسین ہے، علی کے لب پہ یا حسین ہے، فقیر کی صدا حسین ہے، فقیر کی صدا حسین ہے۔ عجب سفر ہے عشق کا، سکون آبلوں میں ہے، نجف سے کربلا تلک یہ شور قافلوں میں ہے، چلو حسینیوں چلو، چلو حسینیوں چلو، ذرا سا تیز اور چلو، تمہیں بلا رہا حسین ہے، تمہیں بلا رہا حسین ہے، فقیر کی صدا حسین ہے، فقیر کی صدا حسین ہے۔ تکلم حسینیت یہ اس کا انتقام ہے، علی کی لاڈلی سے اب قضا کا سب نظام ہے، بتا رہی ہے یہ زمین، بتا رہی ہے یہ زمین، یزیدیت کہیں نہیں، جگہ جگہ پہ یا حسین ہے، جگہ جگہ پہ یا حسین ہے۔ صلوات۔
Jazakallah, Brother Taha. Ahsan. I would now like to request Brother Hassan Nayani to please recite a mankabat. Ba'az buland salawat.
خوشنودی امام زمانہ بلندتر صلوات۔ حسین بانٹ رہے نجات لے جاؤ، حسین بانٹ رہے نجات لے جاؤ کچھ آنسوؤں کے عوض کائنات لے جاؤ حسین بانٹ رہے ہیں نجات لے جاؤ یہ کربلا ہے یہ معجزے نما کی بستی ہے یہ کربلا ہے یہ معجزے نما کی بستی ہے کفن میں اس کو لپیٹو حیات لے جاؤ حسین بانٹ رہے ہیں نجات لے جاؤ اور کہیں گی فاطمہ وقت ظہور مہدی سے کہیں گی فاطمہ وقت ظہور مہدی سے لڑائی کے لیے غازی کو ساتھ لے جاؤ حسین بانٹ رہے ہیں نجات لے جاؤ اور غم حسین میں ہر زخم معجزہ ہے نہیں غم حسین میں ہر زخم معجزہ ہے نہیں سجا کے جسم پہ کچھ معجزات لے جاؤ حسین بانٹ رہے نجات لے جاؤ کچھ آنسوؤں کے عوض کائنات لے جاؤ حسین بانٹ निजात ले जाओ बर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु
Jazakallah, Jazakallah. Ahsan. Jazakallah, Brother Hassan. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Respected Sheikh, elders, brothers and sisters in faith, Assalamu alaikum. My congratulations to all Mu'mineen on the celebration of birth of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Shortly, I will request the Sheikh to ascend the member, but I have a few announcements before that. In light of the recent terrorist attack in Peshawar, Pakistan, and to show solidarity of the Muslimin and condemnation of this cowardly act, Imam Zafar Anjum, resident Imam of the Colony Masjid, representing Iqra for Peace, will inshallah address our Thursday night congregation here at CFK. Mu'mineen are requested to reciprocate this gesture and inshallah attend this Thursday's program at CFK to show support for this cause. We have another announcement regarding Camp Kauthar. This event has been arranged for brothers and sisters ages 16 through 30 for March 11 through 13th. They, alhamdulillah, already have 93 youth registered for this camp, and they need help covering the funds for this event. For those who are willing, please visit our WhatsApp group for links to donate, inshallah. We, inshallah, will also have on the eve of the 15th of Sha'ban, Thursday, 17th of March, the celebration for the birth of Imam Mahdi Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajjil farajahum. And perform Amal Nima Sha'ban here at CFK. This speech, inshallah, will be given by Sheikh Amin Rastani, and the Amal will be conducted by Sheikh Mahdi Rastani. As always, event details are posted on our WhatsApp group, email, and webpage cfkdfw.org. We request the community to continue observing safety protocols. Please wear a mask and practice social distancing when attending in-person programs. Jazakallah to all our sustaining members, donors, volunteers, and program sponsors for their contributions. If you are not a member, please consider becoming one by contacting our membership director, Brother Asif Patel. His details are posted on the wall along with QR codes to join our WhatsApp groups for those who aren't members yet. For opportunities to donate and sponsor programs or help behind the scenes, please speak to myself or any of the existing volunteers. Let us now recite a Surah Fatiha for the marhumin of tonight's program. Marhumin of Brother Haidar Naqvi and family, all our marhumin and the marhumin of the Ummah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Rahman Rahim. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. I will now request the Sheikh to please ascend to the member. Bawaz buland salawat.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Illuminate and enlighten your heart with recitation of salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Tonight is the eve of the wilad of our third Imam, the night of the wiladat of Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam, and also day after tomorrow is the wiladat of Imam Zain al-Abidin. Three personalities which they are legends and the heroes of Karbala, and those that the revival of the message of Islam is in debt to the sacrifice they made. For the honor of these three personalities, and with the tawfiq of their ziyarah in lifetime and their shafa on the day of judgment, recite another salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. الحمد لله الذي جعل الحمد مفتاحا لذكره وسببا للمزيد من فضله ودليلا على آلائه وعظمته، ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه وحبيبه حافظ سره ومبلغ رسالاته حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. صلى الله عليه وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين، سيما بقية الله في السماوات والأراضين. قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن الكريم: واعتصموا بحبل الله جميعا ولا تفرقوا. On the 3rd of Sha'ban, on the year 4th after Hijrah, in the household of the commander of the faithful, Ali ibn Abi Talib, and the daughter of the Prophet, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, the master of the woman of the universe, Hazrat Fatima Zahra salamullah alayha, a baby was born which was not named by the parents first. When I'm looking through the notes that I usually have for the lectures, there are the very short biographies that most of us that we participate in these occasions we heard. But I believe there are details that we tend to unfortunately ignore, because I see in the community, in our communities, not in just the West Coast or East Coast, across the different communities, there's some issues that is from the lack of attention to these details. So let me finish this story and then I will say what's the point that we have to learn from this short biography. So after the birth of this child, Rasulullah came to the house of his daughter and his son-in-law and cousin and asked them, what did you name this child? And they said, Ya Rasulullah, we will not venture ahead of you. We will not dare to choose a name without your oversight and your selection. And Rasulullah smiled and he said, I will not do the same until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to choose the name for this child. We have Jibreel descended and said to Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, Allah says that your relationship to Ali alayhi salam is like Harun to Musa. Name this child similar to the name of the children of Harun. So they named the oldest child, Hassan, but the name of the son of Harun was Shabar, which was Ibri or Ibri in Hebrew. And the name of the younger one, the second child, Jibreel said to name him Shubair, which means the young Shabar or the junior Shabar. And then Rasulullah asked, what are these names in Arabic? And then Jibreel said that the name in Arabic is Hassan and Hussein. So that was the way the process of name selection occurred for the Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salam and his brother. The lesson that we can pay attention is I've noticed that sometimes the dynamic of young couples and their parents over even a small detail such as choosing a name for their child is a subject of sometimes argument and dispute in the household. That the grandfather or the grandmother is upset because of the name that was selected for the child. And again, I've been part of the counseling session that these details comes up, that people are not happy because of an incident that took place 10 years ago, and this child's name been already chosen. Now this child is 10 years old, but it still comes up. And this, in over time, creates resentment. Like people keeping track and score that, okay, this is what you did to me. Wait, there's going to be my turn. And in this kind of relationship, which is not a Quranic relationship, which is not a healthy relationship, over time, family, where it should be the place of mawadda and rahmah, mercy and compassion, a place of, as Quran said, taskunu ilayha, a place of peace and comfort, it turns to a battleground. It's about power grab and who is the dominant side. The detail in the story of naming of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, number one is look at the Prophet as a father-in-law and as a father. He doesn't interfere with the name selection. He doesn't say, name this child this. If there is someone worthy of that kind of authority, is Rasulullah. Because of his knowledge, because of his status. If he comes forward and say, name this child this, he's worthy of that because he is Rasulullah, is the best of creation. He's connected to source of revelation. Despite that, he doesn't do that, and he says, what did you name this child? And so that's a lesson for the elderly in the community, to know what's the extent of our authority when it comes to somebody is our child that who is married. How much we can expect that my daughter, my son who's married now, have to let me make decisions. So Rasulullah set an example for the elderly, or let's call them for the parents. And Imam Ali alayhi salam, Fatima Zahra salamullah alayhima, they set an example for children. That they say, Ya Rasulullah, we did not choose a name without your consultation, without asking you first. Not ignoring the status and significance of honoring the parents. Simple, very small details, but important. There's a hadith by Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salam. Imam said, don't use your words. Don't say something that will undermine your respect. Such a beautiful hadith. لا تقولوا, don't say something بألسنتكم, with your tongue, that will undermine قدر شأنكم, your status quo, your respect, your honor will be undermined. So don't ask for something that you yourself will be denied that request. Don't let come to the point that people tell you stop interfering in our lives. From the other side, honoring the elderly and honoring the parents is being said by the family of Rasulullah as well. When it comes to the birth of Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam, which is tomorrow, he was born on the 4th of Sha'ban, but on the year 26 after Hijrah. So there is 22 years age difference between Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam and Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam. And his mother is Fatimiyya Kalabiyya, but she is known as Baneen, which is a title. Her name is Fatima. But we have, because of the level of respect she had for Fatima to Zahra, she asked Imam Ali alayhi salam not to call her Fatima. And when Imam Ali alayhi salam said, why? He responded, because when you call me Fatima, I can see the children of Fatima to Zahra. They remembered their mother. Is kind of refreshing the grief and the loss they went through. So call me Baneen by my title. From that kind of a mother who's so mindful of the kind of impact, even her name, which she did not have any say in her name. She was named from the sense of birth. But she made that sacrifice because of the feelings of the orphans of Fatima to Zahra. The result of such a mother's upbringing is Abbas ibn Ali. Is someone that we know that he is the symbol of adab and manner and symbol of respect when it comes to Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salam. And before that to Imam Hassan alayhi salam. Because Abbas alayhi salam, he fought by the side of Imam Ali in the Battle of Siffin. Later on, he was by the side of his brother Imam Hassan, and eventually he joined Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. So what I want to talk about tonight for a few minutes, because we are celebrating three personalities, and to talk about any of them, in my opinion, is talking about every individual is as if we talk about all of them. In Ziyarat Jami Kabira, which is from Imam Hadi alayhi salam, which I encourage all of you, because yes, we do recite Ziyarat Waris, we do recite Ziyarat Ashura, all the others, yeah, they're very good. But one ziyarat which is being advised by all the mujtahideen. If you go to Hawza, one of the first thing I've heard from my teachers was when you go to ziyarat of Imam Rida alayhi salam, Hazrat Ma'asuma salamullah, or any of the ziyarat, recite Ziyarat Jami Kabira. It's a bit of a long ziyarat compared with others, but they were recommending it, recite part of it, a page, 2 pages of it. So it's a good idea that we recite it, even 1 page. If I don't have a time to recite the entire Ziyarat Jami Kabira, at least 1 page, and then divide it. Because in Ziyarat Jami Kabira, first of all, is the authenticity of it is proven. Chain of narration is one of the most authentic ziyarat out there by the Ma'asum. Secondly, is an encyclopedia of Shia belief system. When you read with the meaning and translation and reflect on it, it shows what it means to be a Shia and what is the meaning of an Imam that we believe in. So in the Ziyarat Jami Kabira, there is a statement which Imam alayhi salam is teaching us to say, is that kullukum nurun wahid, addressing all the infallibles and ma'sumin, that you are all one light. You're the same light. That your purpose is to enlighten mankind and teach mankind the right way of life. So if I mention the name of Abu Abdullah Hussein alayhi salam, or Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, or Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, ultimately all of them are working for the same cause, for the same purpose. And that purpose is to protect and preserve the religion of Rasulullah, to protect the true meaning and tafsir of Quran. That's their mission. Maybe due to the time and needs of the time, they've done it differently. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam taught lessons, and we have so many tradition, fiqh and jurisprudence from him. Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam taught supplications and du'as. Imam Ali alayhi salam, we have Nahjul Balagha, more on the theology aspects. But ultimately they work on the same project. Each of them are covering one corner of this project. But tonight I want to, from these three personalities, learn one lesson from each of them. So total of 3 lessons. So let's start with Sayyid al-Shuhada, which today was his birthday. What's the lesson one lesson. Of course, there's so much we can learn. The time is limited, and also our memories are not capable of retaining so much information either. So let's remember one thing, that after the lecture, if you leave this majlis, you remember, okay, this is one thing we learned from the majlis of the wiladat of these ma'asumin and personalities of the month of Sha'ban. Because ultimately we owe it to ourselves before anyone else that, okay, I spent 30 minutes, 40 minutes listening to a lecture. What did I learn? Always ask yourself. Always ask yourself, at the end of the lecture, what did you learn? Because I remember someone was talking to me and said, you know, Sheikh, there is a speaker I really love. He's so knowledgeable. And he was just, talking, sharing his experience. I said, very good. What is he talking about? What kind of subjects? Is it an expert in history, theology? What is it? But no, he talks about religion and stuff. I like it. I said, okay, I got that. What does he talk about? What was the last lecture you listened about? And he thought for a few seconds and said, I don't remember. And I said, it's okay. It happens that you don't remember. Nobody, the busy life we have. Thanks to Instagram and WhatsApp, who will remember anything anyway, right? They cover most of our attention span. But tell me one thing that stands out that he talked about that really engaged you, resonated with you. And he said, I don't understand most of the stuff that he says. He says, but how you say that he's so knowledgeable if you don't understand what he says? So that's why, because I don't understand it, it must be that he's very knowledgeable. So I don't make that to be the case when you listen to a lecture. The hadith said when you listen to an orator, a speaker, lecturer, is as if you are worshiping them because you give your attention to them. For that moment, you're listening and you want to submit to what they have to say. Yes, there's critical thinking, you have to analyze and all that, but ultimately, you're making something, a sacrifice that you will not get any replacement for. That is the time you spend here. So at the end of the lecture, remember, inshallah, I will not test you, come to you and say, what did I talk about? But remember, the first lesson from the life of Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salam that I want to talk about, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, is a statement that in the Ziyarat of Arba'een, our sixth Imam, which Ziyarat Arba'een is from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. In the Ziyarat, there is a statement that we refer to Sayyid al-Shuhada, that Ya Allah, وَبَذَلَ مُهْجَتَهُ فِيك. We say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Allah, Hussein alayhi salam sacrificed his soul for your sake. Muhja in Arabic is the blood of the heart. It means that part that is without it, if there's no pumping, there's no beat, there's no heartbeat, you die. Said he badala is like giving. He gave the blood of his heart, in other words, his life, for your sake, fiqh, in your path, for your cause. To do what? لِيَسْتَنْقِذَ عِبَادَكَ مِنَ الْجَهَالَةِ. To release your servants, O Allah, from ignorance. That's the lesson from Sayyid al-Shuhada's life. According to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, the reason Sayyid al-Shuhada, the main one that Imam Sadiq says, sacrificed his life and gave the blood of his heart, was to release people from ignorance, jahl. What is jahl? In Arabic language, the word jahl means absence of knowledge. When there's no knowledge, it's jahl. And is being defined as someone who doesn't know, and in some cases doesn't want to know or assume that they know. There are levels to ignorance. Because there is a level of ignorance that people don't know and they admit, I don't know. So if you consult with me, if you ask me a question that I don't know, I tell you I don't know. This is a type of ignorance that many people deal with and is fine. Because it's a stepstone to the next level that, okay, I don't know the answer. Let me go and start finding the answers. Let me listen, let me read, let me ask questions until I find. Then there is a complex ignorance, jahl murakkab, which is the worst form of it, by the way, is the one that somebody who doesn't know and they're ignorant, but they think they know everything. The moment Shaykh goes to Minbar, oh, another one. What they're going to talk about? I already know this. So without even letting the person say the point they want to say, they already have an opinion, they already have a judgment, and they already have a conclusion. And they think they know everything. This is the worst kind of jahl. Why? Because the one who doesn't accept, they don't accept that I don't know. You will never be able to educate them. Never convince them that, okay, what you say is right, is wrong. We were talking with another sheikh about this issue of misinformation. One of the issues we had in our community for the past 2 years was the misinformation about this pandemic. People died because of it in our communities. People who could have lived, of course, life is in the hand of Allah, but at least the chance of their death would have been much, much lower. Died because of misinformation. I participated in their burials. Why? Someone educated them with their jahl. They spreaded their jahl to others. And the issue is with the knowledge, one thing it is that you admit you don't know. This is one thing in Hausa. It's been said about Allama Tabatabai that once he was teaching a class. It's been said about multiple maraji and multiple scholars, specifically about Allama. The title Allama is given to someone who's an expert in a field that, again, pretty much he's excelling that point and that level. So Allama Tabatabai, he was asked a question, and as he was sitting, again in Hausa, when you're teaching a class, sometimes they sit somewhere a bit elevated, like a mimbar or kursi, and then students are sitting on the ground, a traditional Hausa. He was sitting on a mimbar, so everybody's looking at, and it's very common in Hausa that after the topic is done, depending on the style of teaching, students, senior students, they bring up questions, they bring up some objections to the point that was made. Somebody asked a question from Allama Tabatabai, so he thought for a few seconds, and then he repeated 3 times, La adri, which translates as I do not know. I don't know. But he repeated it 3 times. La adri, la adri, la adri. I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. And we continued with the lesson. After the class, the senior student came to Allama and said, why did you repeat it 3 times? The first one was enough. Everybody heard. But why 3 times? He said, I wanted to humble my nafs. That everybody's calling you Allama. Everybody's respecting you, and you have the prestige of that great scholar. Remember, you don't know everything. And that's the true alim. The true alim we have in the tradition is the more they learn, the more they figure out that their ignorance is greater than their knowledge. Even atheists, scientists say the same thing, by the way. So there are astrophysicists, there are biologists, there are, when it comes to pandemic, people who are infectious disease experts. They tell you this as well, and this is amazing to me, that even an atheist, in some levels they know it. They said what we know is much less than what we do not know. They admit it. One of the known atheist astrophysicists out there is deGrasse Tyson, right? He's a famous atheist. Once in a while, again, he's a kind of likes the fame and spotlight. But he said one thing, said the more we figure out about the universe, about the cosmos, about the galaxies, one thing we figure out better and better, and that's we do not know anything. And what we figured out in the last few decades, it shows us that all we thought we knew was wrong.
We're just figuring out that, okay, we thought we knew it. We had some hypotheses, some theories, but it's not true. There's much more to know. And that's the same when it comes to any form of knowledge, even a spiritual knowledge. Even when it comes to religion. That's why you see at the end of the a'lam, the most knowledgeable mujtahid, when they give a fatwa, and at the end of the fatwa they said, Wallahu a'lam, but Allah knows best. But you see somebody who just read one time, shiachat.com or sistani.org, with confidence they come and give their own version of fatwa. I know Said Sistani said this, but in my opinion, and I say, mashallah to your confidence, you have your own opinion, so you have an opposing view to a mujtahid in that level that they spent 50 years, 60 years studying Hausa. But you, alhamdulillah, in a matter of few months of studying, you reached and excelled that level. So Sayyid al-Shuhada came to rescue people from ignorance. That's the message from Sayyid al-Shuhada tonight. يَسْتَنْقِذَ عِبَادَكَ مِنَ الْجَهَالَةِ. And what is jahl? There's a lot we can talk about it, but I want to give one definition, which I believe the more and more you look at the examples of ignorance in our own lives, the more this tradition comes and becomes a reality. And that's a tradition of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam in Nahjul Balagha. Allahumma salli. The tradition says, لا أرى الجاهل مفرطا أو مفرطا. لا أرى الجاهل مفرطا كان أو مفرطا. An ignorant person, a jahil person, you will not find them unless they are in ifrat or tafrit. What is ifrat? Ifrat is excessive behavior. When somebody who deviates from the path of Sirat al-Mustaqim, the straight path, the balanced path, to the path of excessiveness, ifrat. That's a jahil. So this is either this, that's a jahil's attitude, or mufarrita, or they're negligent. Either they do too much, or they don't do enough. Example of that, I've had this young person came to me and he said, tell me that how can I help my community? Okay, there's a lot that you can do for the community, but what do you mean? He said, wherever I look, I see people lying and cheating. Even in the masjid I go, they're gossiping, there's judgment. It's a toxic environment. And the more and more he was saying and said, with those issues, honestly, Allah has to help. There's not much we can do. So no, but again, it's very, very bad that I see this. I have to do something about it. So they start talking to people, again, excessively, not in a standard manner, to the point of disturbing people. To the point I remember he was talking to a young guy that he laughed out loud, and he was telling him, why you're laughing out loud. This is from the signs of shaitan. So I went to him and privately and said, brother, I'm so happy that you discovered faith. I'm so happy that you found a new renewal to your faith. But just take it slow. Let's just start with the wajib. If somebody commit a haram, start with that. With the makruhat, with the actions that they are better not to do, let it be. So I remember this person literally after a week. Now again, from the ifrat to tafrid, this is in front of me. I see that this person now, he has his own version of Islam. Shaykh, in my opinion, you should love God in your heart. This salat and worship and prayer doesn't make any sense. So you are the same person a week ago talking about makruhat, and a week later you have this version? That's the issue that we have with people overnight become religious. Overnight religiousness is never good. Never. Look at Islam. In Mecca, the first chapters of Quran are short verses. All the last juz of Quran are Mecca surahs, very short. You start slow, take baby steps. And it's all about the principles. Believe in God, believe in the judgment, don't commit dhulm. Later on, when they came to Medina, eventually the other rules and details came on. But there are people who overnight wants to go a path that people take for, for a year. Overnight. That's why people say, Sheikh, is there a dua that I can pass my exam and I didn't study for it? And I tell them, no. There is no such a thing. There is no shortcut for laziness. There is a dua that you ask Allah to help you with your anxiety and stress, to let you actually show what you already prepared for. But there is no dua to skip the hard work for you. That's not the way. Similar when it comes to the mask, wearing a mask. Inshallah, we pray for this pandemic to be over, and inshallah, all the suffering of all the people, inshallah, once for all, bring an end to it. But until that day, is there a dua that I don't have to wear a mask? No, there is no such a thing. And I tell people, but Allah, our life is in the hand of Allah. Don't we believe as Muslims that God and that life and death is in the hands of God? What's the point of me wearing this mask? And then they give me the example of, I knew somebody who wore a mask and they got sick, and somebody who did not wear a mask and they didn't. And these kind of logic just bring me back to the old story that exercise, if it was very good, why rabbits live such short lives and they're jumping around all the time, and turtles, they hardly move and they live for 100 years. Again, these kind of similes and examples are just for kids, but adults using it. That me wearing a mask, as somebody said, who said that if you wear a mask you will not get sick? It lowered the chances. And there are underlying causes, and there's so much that we do not know about it. And I tell them, you're not better than Amir al-Mu'min Ali ibn Abi Talib. He was wearing an armor in the battle. He didn't have the trust in Allah. Then we recite that Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, they stole everything, including his armor. Is his tawakkul somehow not sufficient that he wears the armor? Ifrat and tafrit. The Ifrat are the one that they undermine everything. Amir al-Mu'min said, if you want to deal with Jahl, the best way to deal with Jahl is find وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ. Find the straight path, the balanced path. Don't create your own version for religion. If Allah did not make something wajib, don't make it wajib. If Allah wanted to make it wajib, He wouldn't done it. It doesn't need you to do anything. He made the law. So balance is to stick with what it is. لا تقدموا بين يدي الله ورسوله. Don't walk ahead of the Prophet. Don't venture ahead of him. Don't teach him how to do it. That's the lesson number one. From Sayyid al-Shahada, he's here to release us from Jahl. And the biggest symptom of Jahl is ifrat and tafrit. Excessive and negligence. Find balance. Find balance. People who overwork, they will exhaust themselves. People who sleep, excessively, they will get sick. People who even exercise excessively, they will get hurt. Everything in balance. And the meaning of wisdom is to find how is the balance. That's the question. From Abu Abdullah Hussain, we come to tomorrow, Abu al-Fadl Abbas. The lesson of Abu al-Fadl Abbas alayhi salam is again the first statement in his ziyarah. Assalamu alayka ayyuha al-abdu salih. Peace be upon you, O righteous servant of Allah. What made Abu al-Fadl Abbas alayhi salam stand in that pinnacle of Iman is his ubudiyat, is his servitude. The servitude of Abu Abdullah Hussein alayhi salam is a level of an Imam, but after Imam, if you want to look at a human being who's not an infallible, but is striving to be a Shia of the Imam, because one thing we always tell ourselves, okay, Ahlul Bayt, they are lights, they are high there, we cannot touch them. We are who we are. We do our own things, right? We cannot do much. And I tell them, yes, Ma'asum is Ma'asum, Imam is Imam, but others that we have as companions, they're example for us. At least look at people like Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi, Habib ibn Madahir, Jawn, Maytham al-Tammar. Who are these people? There are people, they're young, old, educated, not educated, Hafiz al-Quran, didn't even know how to recite Quran. They're all type of people there. But they have one thing in common, and that's recognizing who the true Imam is. And then recognize the Imam and follow the Imam to the servitude of Allah. But how we can achieve ubudiyat? I said one thing about Jashn, I'm going to say one thing about ubudiyat. Abdus Saleh. For Abu al-Fadl Abbas, what made him to be called Abdus Saleh is one thing, and that is after Iman action. Abdus Saleh. Abd is okay, I only worship Allah. In worship, we can be internal. It's all about my belief. But when it comes to Salih, the righteous action is about our deeds, is about how I live. That's the question. Does my action matches the color of my Iman? If it does, I'm Abdus Saleh. But if I say I love Sayyid al-Shahada, I love Abu al-Fadl Abbas, but I watch any kind of movies that comes on my way. I say whatever I want to say, if it's gossip or ghiba. If in my business, God forbid, I deceive, I cheat, then my action doesn't match my Iman. There's a discrepancy which is going to cause problem. So the lesson from Abu al-Fadl Abbas alayhi salam is to strive that our a'mal and our action is going to match our Iman. Beautiful statement by one of the ulama was this, that make sure that if Imam Mahdi Ajjallah Ta'ala Farajul Sharif is going to come right now, am I able to hand him my phone? Start with my phone. Next, can I invite him to my house? If the answer is yes, you can, without deleting and without any censorship, tell him how you make money. If the answer to these questions is yes, you're doing it right. Continue. But if the answer to one of them is, oh, I need some time, I need to do some stuff first, then again, my actions are not matching my statement of love and proclamation of Shias of the Imam Mahdi. The third and last is Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. The lesson from Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam is a hadith from him, which Imam alayhi salam, after Karbala, what he was trying to do was try to build the community from the ground up. Remember, all those who were good enough to join Sayyid al-Shahada, they did. There were a few who were in prison, but majority who were good enough, they joined Sayyid al-Shahada. Now Imam has to start from scratch. And in a society that he doesn't have the freedom to do so either. So we have all the ziyarat and the supplication and the du'as from him. But to establish Iman, the rule that Imam Sajjad alayhi salam says, which is the rule of Quran, is that Iman cannot be achieved without hardship. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. That's lesson number 3. Allah said in Surah Balad, we created mankind in hardship, travail. It means that you don't have to expect a life of comfort. There are temporary comfort in our lives, but there's not ultimate comfort in this dunya. When you're young, you're not strong enough. You're not wealthy enough. You're not wise enough. There's a deficiency. Once you have those stuff, now physically there's a decay. There's always something missing. And that's the nature of this dunya. If we think of a time that everything is going to be there, that day may never come. That's why I tell people that, oh, I will get married when I'm ready. So what do you mean by ready? If you're waiting to become absolutely abid and zahid, that time probably will never come till you're 40. But relatively, you have to start working the progress of building yourself. You should not have major deficiencies and illnesses and sickness of the soul either. But don't be a perfectionist either. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. The dunya is with hardship. You go to community, we try our best. Honestly, I've talked about not judging, controlling your tongue. Don't say something disrespectful, hurtful. But we cannot control people's mouth. They may say something. If I don't understand it, that this dunya is something that I cannot control, okay, I'm not going to go to center anymore. Why? Somebody said something to me. That idea of avoidance is not going to help us anywhere. Same with our children. That's why our religion talks about a mu'min that deals with hardship. They ask Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, who is a mu'min? Who is a faithful person? Imam said, this is the characteristics, qualities of a mu'min. Number one, Imam alayhi salam said, al-mu'min is someone that in the time of hardships, still gives charity. As-sadaqa inda al-qillah, which means you don't have a lot, you still give. If you give the extra stuff and the leftover food to the food bank and to the homeless feeding, these are good. But the true test is when you don't have enough yourself and you still give. How many stories we heard from Ahlul Bayt? That they shared the only meal they had with the poor. Surah Insan. إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ لَا نُرِيدُ مِنْكُمْ جَزَاءً وَلَا شُكُورًا. On the top of that, to make it even harder, is to give the only thing you have at the time of hardship without reminding them, without, God forbid, ridiculing them, hurting them, that, oh, I remember I did this to you, or recognition that, oh, let's inshallah give a badge of honor to this person because he or she gives charity. Without it, لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا. Not even a thank you. It's hard. It's not easy. I promise you it's hard. Ayatollah Gulpaigani, he said that, when he was young and he was still at the beginning of his studies, he had financial troubles to a point that he wasn't able to provide for expenses of the family and the rent and stuff. So he went to Hazrat Ma'asuma Salamullah alayha ziyarat and made a tawassul. That Ya Fatima Ma'asuma, be a wasita for my troubles. That whatever I do, I cannot find a solution. So he says the next day after my dua and tawassul, someone came by my side and said, Shaykh, get this money. This is for you, a gift from me. No string attached. Okay. So, Ya Allah, thank you to the person who helped. So as I was walking, someone stopped me and said, Shaykh, it has been 5 days that my family did not have anything to eat. Can you help me? And I thought to myself that my family at least had food. I'm going to take care of it, inshallah. They're going to be somewhere. I will take care. This is not an urgent matter. But this person's family did not eat anything. I give that money, all of it, to the person. And he says, after that, I never end up in a position that I go and ask Allah for help. and only the blessing of Allah start coming more and more to me. Young people are sometimes surprised, especially when they start making a small amount of money. Said, Sheikh, I make 4,000 a month. And somebody made a donation, 50,000, 100,000. How they do it? I cannot imagine. I just make, this is my entire salary for the annual salary. And I tell them, don't think that they have too much. Some of them, they don't have too much. But they had an experienced transaction. They gave and they got something in return. Many people I know, especially those who spend for Imam Hussain's cause, they tell me, some say it's qurbatan ilallah, and all of that is right. But when I do it, it's because I know when I spend a penny here, I get 10 times in return. I believe in it because it happened. That's a promise of Allah. That's the meaning of barakah. It doesn't mean that necessarily you make a lot of money. Yes, maybe you make less money, but how you spend that money would be different. That's barakah. Don't think that, okay, I give this money to charity, next year I make more. No. You make less maybe. But the way you spend that money, the amount of troubles and issues that comes to your life is not as much. You live a much more delightful life. That's barakah. So Imam Zain al-Abidin said, Iman, a mu'min, is somebody who gives to charity at the time of hardship. That's number one. Number two, as-sabr inda al-musibah, to be patient at the time of calamities. When there's hardship, to be patient. Don't lose control. Just imagine, we're not talking about Hazrat Zainab tonight, but when we talk about sabr, the calamities, if somebody have to talk about it, are Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. So if somebody, even sometimes I've noticed parents say, go do your namaz on time, go do your prayers on time. You get what you want. And I'm telling them, one thing in dunya is that you don't get everything you want. A dunya without bala, it's not dunya. Don't make a false promise to yourself or to others. And don't look at every trouble as a punishment of Allah either. It's not that you were wrong and Allah wants to punish you and that's why you have troubles. Sometimes you know better than anyone if you did anything to deserve a punishment. But sometimes you say, I didn't do anything to deserve a punishment. It's not a punishment. It's a test. Look at the life of Ma'asumin. God forbid what Sayyid al-Shuhada, what Abu al-Fadl Abbas alayhi salam, what the Ma'asumin did to deserve that much hardship. Nothing. The most innocent, the most noble, the most pious and virtuous of people, they face the most severe form of calamities. So don't make this conclusion that, okay, if I do everything right, I will not face any hardship. No. If I do everything right, I become resilient enough that I don't lose my faith and my humanity in the face of hardship. That's the difference. That's why faqr and poverty is not good or bad. Depends. Prophet said, Al-faqru fakhri, my pride and honor is poverty and faqr. I don't brag about my wealth. I hang out, I sit down with the poor. But another hadith said, Al-faqru ayyakada kufra, that poverty may bring you to kufr and disbelief. It depends. Someone like Khuli is poor. To get some money, he's ready to make the crime of carrying the head of Sayyid al-Shuhada, put it in a tanur. We know this story. He's poor. For some dirham and dinar, he's ready to do anything. And you have another poor, like Maytham al-Tammar. He has nothing. But he said, you can do anything to me, I will not curse Ali ibn Abi Talib. Both are poor. But in the face of hardship, which is poverty, they don't react the same way. That's the third lesson from the life of Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam. That the dunya, it's the place of hardship. Don't look for absolute comfort. Just know there are going to be hardship. But the way that we can face the hardship, Imam Zain al-Abidin said there are two things. Number one, Be generous at the time of hardship. Be generous when you are under pressure yourself. That's a true test of your generosity. And the second, practice patience. When there's a musibah, when there's hardship, sabr and patience. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the honor of Sayyid al-Shuhada, Abu al-Fadl Abbas, and Imam Zain al-Abidin, alayhim as-salam, grant all of us immediately, inshallah, very soon, the ziyarat of Arba'een, the ziyarat of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam in this dunya, and their shafa'at and intercession in the day of judgment, inshallah. May Allah give us the tawfiq that our knowledge, we have a tawfiq to convert them, to transform them to action, to practice. Because without practice, this knowledge will be additional burden. The more I know and the less I practice, the more a responsibility comes to me. Ya Allah, grant the tawfiq of amal and practice and action to all of us, and grant the amal and action that is sincere, that has ikhlas, is the amal that is closest in acceptance to you, inshallah. Ya Allah, hasten the return of Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman. Ya Allah, grant all those who are ill and marid with immediate shifa and recovery. Ya Allah, bless the soul of all of our marhumeen. Ya Allah, by the honor of Abu Abdullah Hussein alayhi salam, all those who are mazloom, all those who are oppressed, grant us the tawfiq to help them, to support them, to be voice for the voiceless. And Ya Allah, remove the hand of the oppressors from the land of the Muslimin. Ya Allah, by the honor of Abu al-Fadl Abbas alayhi salam, grant all of us the tawfiq of adab and obedience to the Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman. By the honor of Imam Zain al-Abidin, grant all of us the joy and the pleasure of worship and ibadat, and for the soul of all marhumeen and the shifa of all those marid, please recite Surah Fatiha with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. As you recite your Fatiha, I would like to thank the community for welcoming me, also for the host, generous host to welcome me, as well as Honorable Sheikh Mahdi Rastani, that truly it's a great treasure that you have. Many communities that I know, they have something missing, and that is to having active and at the same time knowledgeable scholar in their community. May Allah inshallah protect you and your scholar for you, and give you the tawfiq inshallah to continue serving the cause of Allah and the cause of Ahlul Bayt. Inshallah, it was an honor. Please keep me in your du'as, and let's recite a salawat for all the ulama, all the mujtahideen, and also especially for Sheikh Mahdi Rastani with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام ولك السلام وإليك يعود السلام. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليك يا رسول الله، يا نبي الله، يا خير خلق الله، يا خاتم النبيين. السلام عليك يا مولاتنا يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين ويا إمام المتقين علي بن أبي طالب. السلام عليكم أيها الحسن والحسين سبطي نبي الرحمة وسيدي شباب أهل الجنة، وعلى أخيهما أبا الفضل العباس وأختهما زينب الكبرى سلام الله عليها. السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين زين العابدين. السلام على محمد بن علي باقر علم النبيين. السلام على جعفر بن محمد الصادق. السلام على موسى بن جعفر الكاظم. السلام على علي بن موسى الرضا المرتضى. السلام على محمد بن علي التقي الجواد. السلام على علي بن محمد الهادي النقي. السلام على حسن بن علي العسكري الزكي. السلام عليك يا صاحب الزمان، يا خليفة الرحمن، يا إمام الإنس والجان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك صلوات الله عليهم أجمعين. السلام عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة ورحمة الله وبركاته.